go.
Hello and welcome to the Aten Inquisition, where we spend a little bit of time getting to know the populace of the Kingdom of Atenveldt. We're your hosts, Morgan and Elizabeth, King and Queen during these times of plague. Our guest this evening is Duchess Nichelle. Your Grace, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am Duchess Nichelle of Whitewolf, and I am born and raised in Atenveldt. I spent a few years away in Kaid, but otherwise native Arizona girl, so Atenveldt comes with that. I've been in the SCA since I was about 6 months old and held just about every office, and a Pelican and a Duchess. Those are my exciting news. Ooh, I know my countess. That's the one that not everybody gets to pull out.
I thought your favorite was that you were in the league of
Supervillains.
but
I'm not in the League of Villainy Extraordinaire. I have started the League of Villainy Extraordinaire. Once I figure out how to say it. It's like I would never join a sorority, but I started a sorority because how it works, right?
so who gets credit for starting it though? Didn't we start it by giving you the scroll?
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say yeah, probably. But I did have to petition. I recall a very moving letter.
You did.
Yes.
Well,
it was your idea, for sure.
Like, how come that guy gets to be a super villain? Like, actually, that's nonsense. We need a super villain. But now there can only be one per kingdom, just for obvious reasons.
Right. There's not room for more than that.
Yeah. Right. There's not.
So, I would ask you how you found the SCA, but being that you started at 6 months old, I'm pretty sure I could figure out you were dragged by your parents.
Yeah, and I didn't want to go. I remember it clearly. I was like, this looks stupid. I don't want to, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was a Mother's Day, and my parents were at my grandmother's house for Mother's Day, and there was something happening in the park nearby, like around the corner from our house. They had it in some kind of local paper, and they were like, we should go check this out. This looks cool. And they went, and it was Phoenix Firebird Festival of the Arts. And I think that was the first time they saw the SCA, and then they just about immediately joined. And I think our first official event, I want to say, was Atenveldt's first crown summit.
Wow.
I think was that. Yeah, pretty cool. It's like I was there. I have no conscious recollection of this whatsoever, but I was there. So me.
That's kind of cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite story from the Wayback Machine?
Oh my goodness. Immediately I have to go to the family friendly mode, because I was a teenager back in the day. So we got to remember that there was a lot of appropriateness probably through most of my back in the day. I don't know. I mean, I think that there's some cool just general SCA stories that I think I have mostly around like Estrella Park, probably, which was kind of our home for a long time, not just for Estrella War, but actually a lot of events happened there. There was a lot of mass. I remember one of my early kind of visual memories. Couldn't possibly know what event it was or year or anything like that, but I remember sunrise. It was early morning, and there was like the sun was coming up and the Estrella Mountains, and was a friend up there playing back, a child, and then a friend of the family, and that was kind of when I was at the early kind of all of my stuff put together memories, where it's like here's sunrise and there's bagpipes and the smell of coffee and the campfire and the bacon and the, kind of the smells that happen at an event in the morning. And so that's kind of one of my favorite, like kind of just fallback visual recollections. Probably no real story, no real personalities there, but pretty cool moment.
We'll squeeze that out of you later.
I know, I'll figure it out without swearing, without having to be bleeped. I don't want to get bleeped.
So tell us about your personal heraldry and like how you came across your name. Or did you just?
Again, didn't have a lot of options or influence over those choices. But so originally with Nichelle, the Whitewolf family name was actually named after our dog. We had a Samoyed, which was our family dog, and there's a fluffy dog. And there was the family name, boom. So my dad's device then was a white wolf on a red background with white ermine. And then my mom from Flagstaff had a big blue background and a gray squirrel with a nut. And so my device originally was half and half of their devices. So it was half red and half blue. So it was red, the ermine. And then Nichelle, the scallop shell, get it? So no, yeah, big white shell in the middle of that. So so it was Nichelle Whitewolf because that was a family name, stuck with Nichelle, made that really easy my whole life. And then when I was about, it was around 2003, I guess, and kind of say embraced the dark side and my more villainous reputation. It switched my device a little bit. So I honored my parents still as Argent and a scallop and a Borgia gray and sable, which is a white background with a big black scallop with a border of black flame. So, but suited me personally a little bit more. And don't ever do Rayani. I'm just gonna go out on. I mean, it's cool because it's paint. Oh my god, painting it, sewing it, applicating it. I don't care how big it is or how small it is. You're gonna pull your hair out. It's almost as bad as Checky. My is in life or.
Maybe you just like a challenge.
Clearly. Yeah.
Okay, so you've done.
But it looks cool.
It does look cool.
Yeah.
So you've done a ton throughout your lifetime in the SCA.
Yeah.
What are your goals?
It's weird. My goal. This is sound a little weird. My goals in the SCA have really all been. Now it sounds political. It didn't start off political, but really about women moving forward in the SCA, women having a place in the SCA, and women being in the SCA. It's challenging. It's always been challenging because for reasons have all historically been very oriented. We have issues with role orientation, right? Like we have kings, we have queens, we have these things. Knights in shining armor. These are all roles that people can play in the SCA and experience. I will also say that having reigned a few times at a hospitality level and on a king level, just having grown up around it, seeing some of the things that Atenveldt had some first. Right? We had the first female knight. We had the first back in the 70s. Our premier Chevalier was actually Black. I liked I love growing up in a kingdom that had a lot of firsts. But what we didn't do, and what we don't always do a very great job of, is treating our consort, who is traditionally, though not always, but is traditionally female, treating her with the equal authority afforded to their male, typically male counterparts. And that's been frustrating to me because if one of you is in trouble, they're both getting in trouble. Trust me on this. And if one of you makes a choice that somebody doesn't like, both of you made a choice that somebody doesn't like. I mean, it's a team in every way, and yet people will defer to the sovereign, and I appreciate that. I appreciate why, but I've worked really hard to try and make sure that the consort was kind of given equal time and equal representation. And it is one of the reasons why I've always been, I really, well, Your Majesty will know that anytime I've sworn guilty, I'm the one out there going, my liege lord and lady. Like I don't know how many years I've been doing that, right? And it cracks me up that even that small thing really hasn't taken, if you notice. It hasn't been added to the ceremonies. It hasn't been added to the oaths. It hasn't been added to any of that. We are, 50 years later and I'm not saying and lady. That's my goal. I want to see that instilled in people's psyche. That's a part of our organization. That equality for women. Pink team.
I like it.
So you're very talented, but what jobs or arts that you've done in the course of your time are you particularly proud of?
My favorite probably ever was a royal feast that I did for Jonathan Dale's first Australia reign. And we had, I have some strong opinions, shocking, I know, strong opinions about feasts and feast culture and feast money. To me, and I love feast culture and I cook a great deal and I do a lot of feasts. To me, though, that's not my time to shine. To me, a feast is the time to make the event shine and to make food approachable and to throw a good party and to make sure people are getting their money's worth for their food. And what I mean by not my time to shine is that while it may be an opportunity to shop here and there just because I may happen to have the skills, there's no other art in the SDA really that gets more like that, like a feast would, right? So I don't want to use that as a platform for myself. Royal feasts at Australia, however, and teas and the like and vigils and things like that are typically private donation or they're coming out of your pocket. And there's your opportunity to show what you've got. And the feast that we did for Jonathan Dale, we were very honored, and I say we, the Sisterhood of St. Harry, did it. And we were given kind of carte blanche and said, make it evil, make it a party, let's have a good time. And we did. We had, like, the inside was all decorated with banners, like the whole thing was just lined with the tables and like all the nuts and pine boughs and like everything that you would envision in a medieval feast. And we played hostess to get everybody comfortable. We, wandered around with like hot bowls of warm lemon water and towels and dry them off. There was a party outside, retinue, so that they weren't just standing there bored. Like, we just threw the huge party. That was probably one of the proudest moments, working together as a group to make it happen. It was one of the first events that we'd done that with. We got to be very fancy with our food, which was fun and terrifying because it was pouring rain out. So like all of our bread went stale and just like weird things happened. We just had it was one of the most proud moments I think I've had in the SCA, the creative opportunity.
Okay. So what is something that you love to do that is not within your normal path?
I like to do in my normal path. That's rough because I think I don't feel particularly pigeonholed. And so while I think what I am really known for doing is probably holding offices, autocrating events, feasts, maybe scribal. I think one of the things that I really like doing is teaching administrative stuff, and it's not that it's not in my normal path, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to teach. But I think I teach things that people don't expect, right? Like I like to teach things around like judging arts and sciences and participating in arts and sciences competitions, like kind of debunking myths around things, really kind of demystifying reigning. And, so it's just like making things approachable, helping people understand that I don't know. I still think that's probably in my normal path, but I don't think it's the traditional one-to-one type of classes that you're usually going to see at collegium or even at any event with some small subset of classes.
Fair.
So is there anything left that you haven't tried that you are interested in?
I've pretty much tried it all. Like, I mean, I everything from heavy weapons to, oh, you know what I haven't tried? I haven't done glass bead making, totally on the to-do list. some other one of those hobbies within a hobby though that I know is going to get really expensive, and then I'm going to do it for like 2 years and then be like, nah, I'm going to do something else now. But I think that's the one that I haven't quite tried yet.
Okay, so what would you say you're known for?
Probably feast stuff. I guess I would have to say it's not necessarily what I have done the most of, but I feel like that's what people come to me for most frequently. I get questions all the time, still even in quarantine. Like for years, people are like, "I'm doing a feast. Will you help me?" Or "How do I do this thing for feast?" Or do my feast. Like I do a lot of. So I would say probably feasting more than anything else.
I think that has a lot to do with, I mean, just in my conversations with you, that's always where you are the most passionate, is when you're
Probably
talking
food.
about feasts or food.
Right. Yeah, cooking for sure. For sure. I gotta put this culinary education to somewhere. And I work in finance, so it's not happening in my day job. I'm still paying on the loans, man. I gotta use it.
Right. So what advice would you give to a new member?
Try everything, commit to nothing. I think one of the most exciting things about the STA is that everything is new. Everything is something you've never seen before. Whether you're watching somebody weave or somebody fight or herald or reign, these are all things that are just mind-blowing. They're so exciting and they're so intriguing. Households, offices, all these things are right there, and in front of you. And we're always in kind of that place of need, right? Like, hey, we have offices open and we need volunteers for this and we need people. And I think what happens is new people get really excited early and have a tendency to jump into the fray and commit in a really deep way without really understanding all the context around the obligations that they're making, whether that's holding an office for 2 years or that's becoming a student to somebody that might be a lifetime, or a household where all of a sudden you're committed to camping in a particular place maybe, or creating swag or pitching in for, expenses. And these are really big decisions that are going to impact your life, not just your couple hours on the weekend. And I don't think that they play that all the way through. I don't know how they can, like without that context. So just don't commit. But volunteer, play with everything, dabble in everything, and don't be married to something that you're not enjoying. Move to the next thing. It's okay. You need to quit fighting. You want to quit cooking, quit cooking. You want to, pursue something outlandish, do it. It's a hobby. Should be fun to be for you.
Preposterous. So who inspires you?
Who inspires me? That's a really, really big list. I have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to amazing family and friends and inspirational people in my life, growing up my life. But what I will say is that I am most frequently inspired by my sisters in my sisterhood, the Panteri. We're a group that was, started in a little bit of a rebellion to being told that royal peers didn't have much to offer the STA and weren't real peers. And it was kind of like, really? Okay, well, let's see about that. And then kind of making space for women to get along. And it's funny to me when people will mention a brotherhood and everybody, that makes sense to everybody. Brotherhood makes perfect sense. Oh, they're in a brotherhood. Perfect. That makes sense. Oh, they're in a sisterhood. What? What does that mean? It means the same thing. Like, what are you talking about? And so these women that work so hard all the time. I mean, I don't mean to name drop. So I mean, I don't want to out everybody who's in the sisterhood, but we've got some big workers and we've got some really good contributors and some very women that I would admire, whether I was near them or knew them as well as I do or not. These are women that I would admire from afar. in multiple kingdoms, and I think they keep me going. I'm like, oh God, they're so good at this thing. I should learn how to do a thing, or wow, they're really moving this project forward, or they're really contributing in their local area. And so it's just that constant reminder that there are people who do great things for the organization, and they're very inspirational.
So how have you been keeping yourself busy during this time when we can't do what we all use all of our vacation time for?
Right. I have kind of been married to work. Luckily, I have that kind of job. I work in corporate America. They're never going to tell you can't do more. Sure, you could do more.
Yeah.
And I think, we bought a house, and we had lost a dog a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago. And we didn't really have room for anyone in our hearts. And we got a house, and then now all of a sudden we have 2 dogs. We're not expected. And we're really just spending time building your life, I guess, home, hearth, that kind of stuff, and making that really secure and comfortable. And that's not a terrible thing. It's been a pretty good thing for us.
Okay, so
I haven't sewn a single thing. I haven't sewn anything. I meant to. Like, I was gonna do it. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna do all the sewing, all my projects. Not one.
you got to wait until we're like 2 weeks from Estrella, and then
That is exactly it.
Ramble.
Because that's how you get it done. That's the right time. That's when the skies open and the inspiration flows. That's how it works. Yeah.
So you've been around to see a lot of traditions come and go over the years.
Mhm.
What is one thing that you feel like we used to have that we lost over the years and you'd like to see come back?
We used to give, and it was queens and princesses used to give an order called the Camille. And the Camille was given during a tournament for the best death. And I kind of miss it, because one of the things that I do that I think has evolved over time is the sports side of our fighting. It's gotten really beautiful and fascinating to watch, and elegant and exciting. But it also used to be that you were killing or you were dying, and that when you lost, you died, and you fell down, and you gave your opponent that moment to revel, like, and I think we've really kind of gotten away from that. We have this lovely, swarthy, yes, you are victorious, and how wonderful that is. Man, if I kill somebody, I want to kill somebody. And I want to be like, that's right, I killed you. And so I think the Camille kind of kept that going. We made dying well a thing, right? Die well, and you could be recognized for that. I kind of miss that tradition.
So what is your favorite tradition?
The hill I will die on is the king's crowning himself.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if we have a sovereign queen, her crowning herself. God, that would be awesome. And I think people don't always know the history of it and why it's so important to us. Is not, as much as we love our chest thumping, I can make jokes about it. That's not a chest thumping tradition. That is because for our first coronation, we were a part of the Kingdom of the West, and for the first coronation, the king couldn't be there in a timely fashion to see the crown installed. And I don't know whether there was politics, probably, who knows, or whatever the case was. But ultimately, our first king was in a position of having to decide, and our people were having to decide, how do we do this? Well, do it yourself. And I think that has become such a ritualized, important thing for us. And I think it really speaks to the personality of our kingdom too. I mean, we're very like, don't tell us what we can't do. We're going to do it. We're going to do this thing. Mm-hmm. And it's important and it's relevant. And it bums me out whenever somebody doesn't want to do it. You know, when they're like, no, I would like this fire ceremony and this bigger thing, and some of that might be really nice and romantic, and I understand it, but that's not who we are. And if you're going to be in this kingdom, that's the thing that you need to understand happens and support it happening. Or do it yourself when you're the one that wins. I feel strongly about that.
Me too.
So
Yeah,
then,
I'm sure.
are there any
Practice.
traditions you would like to see go away?
Good question. I don't think so. I don't think we have ever really embraced a harmful tradition. If we have, I would be interested in understanding more about that. I think that where we actually no, you know what, I could take it back. There's a tradition at the final round tournament. I think it's gone in and out of fashion. I don't think it's 100% of the time, where the victor kind of stands up and says, if anybody has anything to say, you know, or thinks that I missed any shots or whatever, step forward now. That infuriates me. I can't stand that tradition. And part of the reason why is because I have seen it invoked. It was horrific. It was unfair. It ruined the day. There was no good reason for it. If there's somebody that has something to say, that's the reason why the chivalry is there for the final round. If they got something to say, you damn well better stand up and say it before the fight's over. Otherwise, get off the field. Why are you there? Why are you watching? And so I want, after that final blow is struck, I want it to rain down with applause. I want to feel the joy and exaltation of that moment. And I think that it really takes away from it. And yes, maybe that was a crown tournament that was our tournament, the second one. And I will never forget that day, and I'll probably never let go of the fact that that happened. And I thought it was frustrating and irritating, and it was a bummer. So we should stop. There, I said it.
Yeah, well, no, and it does. I think it sets a weird tone for everything moving forward.
It changes the momentum of the moment. It changes the trajectory of the moment. And we were very blessed that, you know, the people who called us, you know, called my fighter into question are friends. These were not people who were trying to, and in fact, in a lot of ways, we're trying to make sure that there was no question. I'm not gonna say we're controversial or anything, but there were people who weren't necessarily happy to see us, you know, potentially reign a second time. And I think that there were people who were really convinced that wearing every step of it out was going to prevent drama later. But it was hard. And I think we were really blessed that the other fighter was like, no, because Eric, who was my king, he didn't even hesitate when they were like, hey, there might have been a thing, and he grabbed his helmet, put it back on, he was like, let's go, let's do it again. And the opponent was like, oh, please God, no, don't make me fight him now. Like, are you kidding me? Like, no. And he was very gracious and said, no, this was a well fought final round. I have no question, I have no issue. So he, you know, so I don't want to say that it like, you know, it didn't necessarily do permanent damage in that regard. You know, it's not like everybody was mean to us, but the crowd went from cheering to not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what to do. And I was just crestfallen. I was heartbroken. And I can't, thank God it was our second time, right? Like, I can't imagine doing that to somebody, a first timer, or I just think about somebody who, you know, already had a hard day. Like, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, it is awkward when something goes sideways in the finals like that. Because I know, like, when me and Ivan both made it to the finals our first time, it got a little weird, and she was being congratulated, and it didn't end up being, I didn't end up being the victor. So
it was a weird day.
That's hard. That's so hard. Yeah, final rounds of crown. I mean, crown journeys are so weird anyway. They're so juiced. I love them. They're my favorite event, right? But which is probably like the next question. But those days are really important for everybody, for every attendee, every participant, and any tiny little thing that smacks is powering it. Man, it better be worth it. You better know beyond a shadow of a doubt that whatever shade you're going to throw better be legit, because that's what people are going to remember about the day.
Yep.
Mhm, for sure. So what is your favorite event?
Yeah, that's Crown. It's Crown Journeys. I think they're really, I think I always loved them, even before any kind of reign or opportunity to preside over them. But as you know, there's also a different vibe that happens when you're responsible for the day.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that before we reigned, it was my favorite day because it was the deciding factor for who our next crowns were to be, who our next leadership was, and it gave everybody a chance to kind of draw the sword stone. That's always the way I feel about Crown Tournament. Everybody has a chance to pull the sword from the stone, whether you're the fighter or whether you're the consort. I believe 100% of every kind of person can and is and will be represented on that day. And if someone is missing from that, it's by happenstance, not by design. And so it's really important. And it used to be that it was about the next leaders. Now that I've had the opportunity to preside over them, it becomes the most important day because it's when I get to lend emotional support, even if from afar, to our current leaders. And I think to just understand what they're going through, and I think it really tests the crown. I think it's the hardest day and the best day, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy standing in the ladies gallery at the end. It's one of my greatest privileges. It's one of my greatest privileges to consult with the other ladies of the rose to decide the Shield of Chivalry, which is a phenomenal recognition. And I frequently elbow my way into holding the Crown Prince and Princess coronet. I don't know if anybody knows that there's no rule about who does that. I think we just all we all just intimidate each other until two of us end up holding them. Like, I don't know how it works.
A lot of side eye.
Right? It is. It's a lot of side eye. It's like, you got booze in that cup? Are you going to give me the booze? No, then I'm going to hold this. And it's like, but it's, it's a kind of camaraderie that I'm not sure anybody you can't begin to describe it. Like, even if, I'm not going to say we all love each other all the time. The ladies of the rose are frequently, like anybody else. We come from all different corners of the world, but that's a place where I feel like we always stand together, always. And that is behind those presidential consorts and behind our queen. It's a big day, big time.
So what would make the perfect event for you?
First, this is going to sound weird. Weather is a big deal for me. Might be a surprise. I can't stand when it's super hot out. I don't like sweating in my garb. I'd actually rather it be a little rainy and drizzly. I don't hate rainy events. Karma, maybe. Got a couple rainy events under my belt for that one. But I like it to be, I don't know, London-y. Like, I want it to be 60 degrees and 50 to 60 degrees and a little bit damp and kind of quiet and smothered feeling and intimate feeling. I don't like huge events, which would also probably, set Estrella aside or like wars aside, but I like the events where there's maybe 100, 200 people, enough where you get to spend real time with the people you want to spend real time with, and not 5 minutes at every table saying hello to everybody and trying to have not enough time to get into conversations. And I think just spending that day and being able to connect is really important. So events that there has to be time to connect, and and I like pretty sights too. I like that kind of suspension of disbelief element and opportunity.
So you've run your fair share of events, big and small. But what new ideas do you have that you think would make events better? Because I know you always got new stuff going on in that area.
I always got something. You know, it's funny because it's all administrative stuff. I think it's really hard for anybody who hasn't, like, I don't think it's about the game side stuff. I think the game side stuff, when somebody goes into creating an event, I think they often have a good idea or a good picture of what they want to do. If I was going to implement a change administratively, what I would like to see is putting it on the financial committee. I would like our financial committee to help make decisions about what is going to be the best event, not necessarily focusing so much on what's going to be the most economically viable event, aka cheap. Because I think that we fall into that, and it's almost a conflict of interest, right? We've tasked these people to make good economic decisions for us, make good financial choices for us. And so it would only make sense in myself, if I were in that position, I'd probably feel exactly the same way. Like, I need to look at what makes the most sense for dollars and cents, the least amount of expense with the most potential to make money and not lose any money. I get that. But I would also really like to say sometimes we have to take some chances. And maybe this hall is going to be a little bit more expensive, but maybe it's going to be twice the event because of it. And, maybe a feast is going to be hard to pull off, but it changes the kind of event that it is when we include one. And just pieces like that. Like, I want to be more generous with our event administrators.
Okay, so what's your favorite out of kingdom event?
It's probably a toss-up between Midwinter and Outlandish. So both Outlands events. Midwinter it's a feast. It's a giant feast. And loving feast culture, I'm always really, when I do get the opportunity to go, I was always very excited to see what was going to be served. But also, I love going out to dinner with my people. And I feel like that's what that event is, right? You're going to a big feast, you're going out to dinner with your folks, your peeps, and you get to spend a lot of time. Frequently it's a wet site, which I don't hate. And sometimes even a bar there, which I don't know if that site's still there. But I just think that it's it's a very high court. It's usually beautiful. The people involved are very happy to and very proud of the event and pulling off the event, and there's all the right people. I love it. I love going to that one. So I guess that beats Outlandish a little bit. Outlandish is cool because we get like 3 or 4 days, and also wet site. There we don't have to drive anywhere, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we've both had fun at both of those events. So
yeah,
they're good events.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. I've been to some really amazing. I find that I really, really like those winter events, that type of midwinter 12th night, so a holiday type event. And I go to them in numerous kingdoms, and it's always my favorites. They always.
Yeah, sometimes I get shocked about when I learn how many people don't actually travel out of their own kingdoms to see what else is out there.
Expensive.
It is.
It's expensive and a scary proposition. I mean, I would have a hard time going to a kingdom where I didn't necessarily know anyone and just kind of, you know what? I think I'm just gonna head to. I'm trying to think of where I don't know anybody. I'm again embarrassed. Okay, I probably know people in most of those, but let's imagine that if I didn't, I would have a hard time just dropping in. I don't know anybody in Canada. I would have a hard time just dropping in on an event in Canada and saying, hey, y'all, what's going on? I might be bold enough to do that, but I'd probably need some other excuse or to do it. Like maybe I was going to be there for work, or
Yeah.
I think it's a big, scary idea to just get up and go somewhere where you don't already have a reason to attend that event.
Yeah. We went to West
And
and I was like having anxiety attacks over what am I going to do all day? Who am I going to know?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's cool. The idea that you can get to know people. I mean, that's true. And but I also think that that's not always the case for everybody. Not everybody feels confident or secure. Travel isn't always easy to pull off physically for people, emotionally for people, financially for people. So I do wish that was something that everyone could experience. That would be like if I was a wealthy person, certainly something that I would try to fund on a regular basis, is get people to other places.
Okay, so now the tough question.
Yeah.
What does peer mean to you?
Peer me, it's funny. One word, responsibility. In longer words, I think that it's effectiveness. I think that if I'm helping to make a decision about who a peer should be or who should be recognized as a peer, I think there's a lot to be said for trusting that this person and a responsibility for me as a person and as a peer is to keep the SCA moving forward. Who's going to keep it going? Who's the next gen? Not just the participants, because we need those too, but somebody somewhere's got to keep it going. Who's going to reign? Who's going to be on the financial committee? Who's going to autocrat an event? Who's going to marshal the tournament? And so I think that when I see peer, I think about that. I think about the future a lot more than I think about historic accomplishment, which I think can be very confusing for people who have not been made a peer yet. Because I think a lot of people think of it as an award. I do not think of it as an award. I think of it as a station and a responsibility.
So how do you think the peers could be better?
I think we could create some more transparency, I think, around our process. All of the circles share one source of truth, which is that the final decision is in the hands of the crown. And I think that that's both a burden and an opportunity, the crown, both having to and getting to make those decisions. But I also think that ends up happening is the populace think that the has decided that person X is the right person to be the next great example for them. That's not always the case. I think we need to be clearer about the fact it's not a merit badge system. It's not. I don't even know that it's even a meritocracy, to be. There's a lot to be said for right time, getting seen, doing the things. But I also think that where we struggle is that I, as a peer, giving counsel to somebody else, I can only speak for myself. I can't represent the entire order to which I belong and say, this is what you have to do to become a part of my order. And I think that that's a myth out there that needs to be dispelled for good or ill, right? Like, I can give advice about why I would say, yes, now it's time, or maybe not the time. But I say that that's for my sister or brother to my left. And I can't speak for them, and I can't set the bar for everybody. The piece that's kind of missing and hard to wrap your head around if you goal is peer and you're talking to as many people as you can to try and understand something that is nebulous. But I think we could, and I don't think that the answer is for us to be more consistent. That's probably what people respond with. And okay, well, set a bar and stick to it. Well, that means don't go. And that means that everybody is robbed of their individual journeys. My journey is different than yours. All three of us remember that order.
Oh, yeah.
And absolutely not the same experiences from beginning to end. And that's as it should be. We shouldn't be having the same experience. So I think we could do better at making sure people understand that our voices individually are just that, one individual voice. And also that it is not necessarily about your merit, but also your ability to carry the SDA to the future.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so since you skipped out earlier, I'm going to reword the question a little bit. So being that you've been in the SCA essentially your whole life,
Yeah.
and I know because we're living it right now. Our son is at that spot where he could care less now. It doesn't matter to him anymore. So tell me a story of the moment that made you decide that you wanted this as part of your life again. Because I know you went through that window.
I did go through that. And it's not the only time that I ever walked with the SCA, actually. It's taken more than one break. I think that the easy answer is the relationship that I had. That may or may not be the right answer for sustainability in the SCA, right? Because that doesn't say this is how we keep people in, this is how we keep our youth in, or this is what we should do to inspire people to stay. But there was a moment I remember clearly. I want to say it was about 92. I hadn't reigned yet. I had been back here from, it was my first Estrella back. I hadn't really played much in Kaid. I was not comfortable with the differences, the way that they played in the SCA. So I got dipped a toe in here and there, but I don't think I embraced it. And it was at an Estrella and it was at night, and I separated from my people. You know how that happens? I was on party patrol in UP, everybody's gone. And I was walking across the field. This is at the old Estrella Park, and we used to have like this central battlefield, and everyone camped around it, right? And I remember kind of not knowing where I was going to go and kind of not caring, like not being bummed out that I had quote lost people. You know, I was like, run into them. And I was looking around and I realized there were like glows from multiple encampments, and the sound of drums and the smell of cook fires and laughter that would just steal out from nowhere. And I remember very vividly standing there and laughing and thinking, oh, I'm home. Like I'm home, I'm in my element. I'm not afraid of anything right now. I mean, I feel like I can take on the world. And I could go in any direction and run into somebody or something that I was going to enjoy. That was when I was like, this is just in me. I mean, I can quit 1,000 times. It's probably never going to be forever. I don't know that everybody gets that opportunity or has that experience, but I do think everybody has a moment, you know, and if you haven't, you just haven't yet, maybe, of feeling like it's your home.
I would argue that most people aren't born into it, so they don't have to go away to find that moment. They
run into it. And that's a really good point. I have thought about that a lot, that I almost am at a disadvantage because I never found the SCA, right? I wasn't out there trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself or feeling not a part of things, or whatever it is that reduces people's self-interest when they run into an organization like this, right? And they go, oh my gosh, this is where they feel like they come alive. I didn't have that, but that's okay. So maybe it's a similar feeling. Maybe that's what people feel like when they first see the SCA. If they don't go, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Sorry, beep. This is a beep. I've ever seen. Versus versus I have to do this, which it goes one of two ways. I don't feel like there's a lot of middle ground there. I don't think people listen and go, cool, but maybe not for me. I think they either are, this is amazing, or this is dumb, and there it is.
It does end up being like a cult.
We're either your kind of nerd or we're not.
What?
We're either your kind of nerd or we're just not.
And you know what's interesting to me too? Have you ever noticed, there's a thing, have you ever run into an SCA person but you knew they were in the SCA? Like I have had that happen, like at work, the grocery store, not a face I knew, not someone I recognized, but there's like these little signs. You're just like, you're of our colony. I can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you're our kind of weirdo. I'll bet if I ask you if you're in the SCA, you're going to say yes. And I have tested the theory, and it is always right. 100%.
Well, and it's funny because those moments can happen at any time, and like you make friends that you didn't even know belonged in your life until you've had that moment. Like I can remember not really knowing who you were, and it was actually at Merrick's vigil, laughing over the cake pasta.
Cake pasta.
The cake pasta.
But I mean, and then I look back, I mean, from that moment on, but literally from that moment on, like our friendship has really been strong. Like I value your opinion. I mean, you know, those moments, it's so funny how you never expect when they're going to happen. And who would have thought joking about cake pasta was going to.
Which is cool. Is it Kugel? It's Kugel.
Yeah.
For anybody who's wondering what cake pasta is. It was Merrick's vigil, and he wanted you know, Jewish traditional foods, and one of them is Kugel, and I didn't know how to make it, and I think I got a recipe from his mom, but then didn't end up making it because after he asked me to do his vigil, he decided that it was too hard for me or something, and ended up paying other people to do food. It was the weirdest situation, like such a good friend. And I think he was just like, no, I don't want you to have to do too much work. So I'm gonna get some catering stuff and you do some stuff. Okay. And one of the big ones was Google. And I think when you go to the table, and I think you were just asking what stuff was. Yeah. And I was like, there's this, and I kind of described it. And I'm like, so it's like noodles, but it's really sweet, and there's cream, and there's cinnamon, it's delicious. And you're like, so cake pasta? And I was like, I think maybe yes. Like maybe yes, cake pasta. And yeah, it just cracked me up. Like I will always remember that. Yeah. Definitely.
It's those little things.
Yeah.
It is. It is those little things. And it's, you know, it's an introduction because you know, it's like any other, the SCA is so much like a small town where you feel like everybody knows everybody, but it's really that everybody knows who everybody is. It doesn't mean you really know them. And there are people who could, you know, I mean, I've worked at my company for 25 years. There are people in my building that I've never crossed paths with. You know what I mean? It happens. And so, yeah, the moments that you instantly change, like here's this person that I've known who they are for maybe 5-6 years, never had really any reason to interact. And here's this random moment that just changes the trajectory for everybody.
Yep.
For sure. I love that. I love that about PSC. Those are my favorites.
Definitely.
It's usually snarky too. Have you noticed that? It's always, it's always snark.
Maybe
it's like something like you're kind of, because cake pasta is kind of snarky, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I tend to be snarky, so that's okay. I tend to cling on to people that I find are snarky as well, because then they don't look at me funny when I say stuff.
Right. Well, and what I mean too is it's that moment of common humor between people. Like there's this bonding that happens with that. Like one of my friends who used to watch crack, she'll put her hand on my arm and she'll just be like, I have questions. And I know immediately to look around. Like there's something ridiculous happening that we are gonna make fun of later. And so it's just those moments, but I've seen that happen with complete strangers. Like it doesn't have to be a friend. Like you get somebody where like, please God, let me make eye contact with somebody who sees what I'm seeing right now and help me understand what is happening.
I can't be the only one that saw that.
I can't be the only one who knows who just saw that. And it's brilliant impression. It's I think what makes so many connections in the end.
Agreed. Do you have any more questions, my dear?
I mean, I could probably ramble for a while, but do you have any?
No.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
We just know her that well. Right. You got nothing? So what are you most looking forward to as things unfold?
Come down. You know what I think I look forward to most. It's testing my theory. It'll test my theory. I believe that it is an organization that's filled with honorable people who want to do the right thing for themselves and the people around them. I think there are a lot of organizations and businesses that are going to be opening back up and be rather careless about that and maybe not as thoughtful as it should be because they want to make money or they want to whatever. I look forward to our group being different. Look forward to the fact that the SA and the people in the SA are I believe, going to be passionate for their fellows, and be patient with leadership and the people who are trying to keep everyone safe and healthy and keep the organization going. I think we're going to do it better. And I look forward to those moments. I think of like Estrella. It rained so hard and terribly a few years back, and people came together.
Mhm.
It was everything great about the SPA. This is no different than that moment, right? This is a moment where people can't just get out. People can't just move about freely. And I look forward to all the deeds of heroism that I feel very confident we're going to see as we reopen.
Me too.
That was one of the coolest parts about that Estrella, was watching people just take care of each other.
Absolutely. Just, I mean, as an autocrat, I was about 25% devastated, just because of like, I think that, you know, this is as almost as disastrous as it could be. Not quite, but pretty close to an event for most of the people there. And then about 50% just really proud of the staff and the way everybody had handled things. And then there was that other 25% that just loved the SBA more than I had in years, because I was like, this is the stuff. This is what makes us us. And people staying up all night and entertaining people in the barn, sleeping on the floor, and giving us bedding and bringing people food and opening ice chests, giving people keys to their house and saying, go put your clothes in my fire. I don't know who you are, but, you know, feed the cat, say so, whatever. And I think it was just phenomenal. I think that was, and I had ever seen that before, even in my years. I don't think I'd seen anything quite that intense. Lots of smaller moments like that. And so, yeah, this pandemic piece is going to be a really big thing like that. People are going to recognize it as the same kind of trauma, but we have been in a trauma experience, and coming out of that, we're going to have to hold each other and be really cool with each other. And I hope people are wise. Yeah, big time, big time.
She brought it all down again.
I know. What you
It
guys
was like
haven't
happy
know?
bit.
No way, that was
I'm just
hope.
making a joke. I know you don't know when.
Ah,
When is it
That was-
over for you? You're gonna
That
reign
was hope,
forever.
and it was faith in her fellow Scadians.
she reminded me of when I broke my ankle.
I mean, that's you.
That was a fun moment, wasn't it? I remember
Oh.
having to get you away from everybody because you're making everybody completely insane to tear down camp. Being, Majesty, I'm not going to say being ridiculous. I will say your expectations combined with were you taking your painkillers? Maybe should have been
No.
taking some painkillers. Oh my gosh. We're hopping on that golf cart. We're leaving now.
I still
Right out of
really
the-
owe you one for that.
That was the best. It's like, okay, we're leaving.
He was
That you
so
could've
mad.
I just don't even know how you guys have done some of the things that you have done. You have had some rough goes. And,
You know,
and still, you guys enjoy this. I don't get it.
Well,
Like
sometimes you just got to pick yourself up and keep going, right?
That's true. It's a fact. But guys, I mean, you guys have been doing a great job on kind of thing and just keeping people engaged. And I know you guys have just got to be absolutely exhausted and ready, and you guys still love it. So that's pretty cool.
Well, thank you.
It's
You're
actually
welcome.
helped the last 4 weekends we've traveled around actually delivering scrolls.
That's been cool.
Right.
And that actually helped recharge us because we actually got to have those moments, because the virtual courts,
Yeah.
you don't get that moment. If you've been there, that's what makes it
Yeah.
worthwhile, is that moment, that actual moment with the person. And that doesn't exist virtually. And
Yeah.
by going around and delivering the scrolls and actually having a few moments with everybody kind of gave us that back.
Yep.
and
That's
seeing
dope.
their faces. And yeah, I'm sure that that's a really big deal. Well, I'm excited for you guys to be able to step down, and excited for your heirs who are first timers. So that's always fun too, to see new
Yeah.
names. And let's see how it goes. It'll be a pretty exciting time. Exciting changes afoot.
Right?
We just got to get there.
Yep.
We'll get there.
Getting closer.
We'll get
Getting
there.
closer.
Yep.
And if I can just get everybody to go volunteer at the vaccination centers,
Right? Yeah.
because
Yeah.
our governor made sure that we lost all the help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. There's a lot of work to be done ahead. For
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
But that's a good challenge. Let's put out a good challenge.
It's fun to do it too.
It wasn't,
so-
well, and if I can get everybody to show up when I'm there, it'll be like being at an event overnight.
Yep.
Right. That's true. Yeah, that is actually true. Overnight an event. All you need is a golf cart and a walkie-talkie.
They have both.
They
out
have
there.
both. And we actually ran into Tom Coffey.
And he was
Nice.
like, hey, you
Feels
guys
like
need a
home.
ride?
He gave us a ride on a golf cart. So
That is perfect.
I did say, hey, you want me to sit on your lap? And he's like, no, this is not work.
Nice. Probably not this time. Not this time. Well, I think it's great, and I hope that it leads to good results. Excited for all of it.
well, I want to thank you for your time this evening. I really appreciate it. I think you've got a lot of interesting stories to tell, and I'm glad
Most of
people
them
get to
require
hear.
bleeping.
Well,
Most
yeah,
of them require bleeping and beer.
some
that's okay.
of them require an R
Like
rating.
that.
That's true.
True. Been around a while. But look forward to whatever kind of editing happens so that I don't look like an idiot. That would be great. Thanks.
You don't
Appreciate it.
anyway.